This is the CBS Evening News with Connie Chung in Portland, Oregon, and Dan Rather in New York.
Good evening. The worst massacre of the Serbian and Croatian war against Bosnia is bringing more calls tonight for military action by the United States and Europe. But even as the last of the 68 victims were buried in Sarajevo today, there was no consensus about what to do. Correspondent Alan Pizzi begins our coverage.
If nothing else, the ethnic mix of the victims of Saturday's attack highlights the insanity of what has been going on for 22 months in Sarajevo. A Bosnian Serb father buried his son. Then a Croat mother and son said farewell to the head of their family. The ceremonies were brief. The cemeteries are in the crosshairs of snipers and artillery. The bodies of two Serb women came to their part of the cemetery without mourners. Their friends know the besieging Serb gunners would fire at them too. The mistake these people made was to think that by standing together, Muslim, Serb and Croat, they could preserve a civilized ethnic mix in the face of racial hatred. The survivors are in no doubt that Serb gunners fired the single shell that wreaked the carnage. But the UN says placing the blame with certainty may not be possible, because the shell hit a market stall before it exploded.
You don't have a deep enough hole to get an angle of the hole. You've got a whole bunch of variables that you can't really deal with.
The situation is complicated by the fact that the frontline trenches are so close. But Bosnian government soldiers say they know their side didn't do it. I heard the shell being fired from the Serb lines, this man says. The Bosnian Serb leadership professed dismay and maintained the slaughter should not get in the way of peace talks.
This is a cold-blooded murder. We strongly condemn those who are responsible.
Not that anyone in Sarajevo believes for a minute it won't happen again, or that the world will come to their rescue. The best they got was U.S. planes airlifting out some of the injured survivors. Alan Pizzi, CBS News, Split.
This is David Martin at the Pentagon. Reacting to the horrific scenes from the marketplace, the U.S. and its NATO allies moved a step, but only a step, closer to launching airstrikes. President Clinton endorsed UN Secretary General Boutros-Ghali's request for NATO to authorize strikes against Serbian guns in the hills around Sarajevo.
I have directed our representatives at NATO to support the Secretary General's request.
NATO is expected to authorize the airstrikes at a meeting on Wednesday, but approval to carry them out still has to come from Boutros-Ghali, and that is by no means a foregone conclusion.
Doubts remain about whether airstrikes against highly mobile and easily camouflaged Serbian guns would work, a view held most strongly at the Pentagon.
The whole building takes very seriously the limitations of airstrikes against, first of all, artillery-type targets, and secondly, any targets that are embedded in a civilian population.
And then there is the fear the Serbs would retaliate against UN peacekeeping forces on the ground.
Nobody but a fool wants airstrikes. The question is, on the other hand, nobody but a fool can go on tolerating the situation in which as many people can lose their lives as happened on Saturday in Sarajevo.
There are hundreds of Serbian guns tucked away in the hills around Sarajevo, shown here in a three-dimensional map produced by the CIA. Before the U.S. and its allies go hunting for them, they will almost certainly try diplomacy once more, perhaps with an ultimatum giving the Serbs until a date certain to pull their guns out of range of Sarajevo. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
President Clinton was on the road in Texas today talking up his new federal budget plan and how his version of health care reform would help the economy. But on that score, help for the economy and how it might